Hello everyone, my name is Val Delovi, and for my management presentation I am going to be talking about Joe Weider. For those of you who don't know, Joe is known today as the father of bodybuilding. He's the one who sort of started it from the ground up and built it to what it is today. A little background about Joe: he was born on November 29th, 1919 in Montreal, Canada, and at a very young age of 12 he was selling fruits and vegetables off the back of a wagon. He also worked in a restaurant and everything, but this was also during the time of the Great Depression, and he had to help provide for his family. But early on, Joe was a little scrawny kid, 5'5", barely 115 pounds, soaking wet. So he was bullied a lot in Canada, and so what he did was he decided to start lifting weights, and what he did was he found a car axle, took two giant tires on it, and started lifting weights. And eventually he got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bullies backed away from him. But then he started getting more interested in fitness. So what he did is he saved up a little bit of money, bought a typewriter and some paper, and he wanted to create his own magazine, his own fitness magazine. This was called Your Fitness, and eventually later on, after this sold more and more copies, after 18 months he sold, he made about $10,000, which is a lot. So then he created his the Weider Barbell Company, and what he did was he took these are a bit of the newer style weights that he had, but what he did back then was he took some of these weights, took pictures, and put them on these magazines to sell. And he sold they were printing about 50,000 copies a month of these magazines to people who wanted to buy them. He also had some nutritional, some vitamins and minerals on there as well. But in 1946, him and his brother rented out a theater in Montreal and had the first Mr. Canada competition. And the same night he created IFBB, which is the International Federation of Bodybuilding, which is known today. And in 1961, he met his soon-to-be wife, Betty Weider, who she was actually one of his models for one of his magazines that he had. And they went to dinner. 6 months later, they were married. And in 1965, Joe, his brother Ben, and Betty, all three of them created the Mr. Olympia bodybuilding competition. And as we know today, Mr. Olympia is known all around the world. Athletes come from Europe, Asia, South America, North America, compete in this event. And Joe found Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had recently won Mr. Universe back in Europe. He brought him over in 1968, and he told him basically, you come here, all you have to do is lift weights, compete, win, and his expenses would be paid for and everything. Joe also had very much success in other magazines such as Muscle and Fitness, Flex, Men's Fitness, but then he also started doing women's magazines. Shape, he had Women's Fitness, and also, again, like I said, he promoted a lot of vitamins and minerals in these magazines, which got ridiculed early on. But after further research and studies, they saw that this could be a benefit to your health. And now Weider has his own supplement companies, and with the IFBB, this is a competition all around the world. Athletes come. They have bodybuilding competitions. They have physique competitions. And just from every parts of the world, everyone comes to compete in these events. And these are all events that Joe started from the ground up. And as you can see, he's known all around the world. He's Ronnie Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, Frank Columbo. These are all guys that admire Joe because of what they did for him. He's such a big part of everyone's lives. And Joe Weider Global Nutrition, you would think after all his success that he had, Joe's net worth would be a lot more than what it actually is today. His net worth is only about 35 million, which is very low, considering he's created Mr. Olympia, IFBB. But what happened was he sold his company to a German company called Schiff Nutritional International. But before it blew up, he backed out, which is now it's worth a total of $1.4 billion. But 35 million is still okay. So, but Joe, known all around the world, competition. He also started getting recognition from some former presidents. You'd seen him in pictures with George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and Joe passed away in 2013, but his legacy is going to live on. There is actually a movie in 2018 coming out called Bigger, the Joe Weider story, just focusing on how he started as a young boy, building from the ground up, building these big companies and build big federations, from the ground up. He's today known as the father of bodybuilding. He shaped this whole new industry, which is not very well known at the time. And now in 2013, he was actually awarded he was inducted into the Venice Beach Muscle Hall of Fame by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he just to recognize his success and all his success that he had in the bodybuilding world.